It's my birthday! Okay, I'm actually filming this. Hold on. I'm actually filming this the morning before my birthday. Okay, bye, honey. Okay, Michelle is leaving right now. We get the house to ourselves, except for my brother, who's here early. He's playing in my room. I've been banished to the room where I keep all of my manga, which is like not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I'm kind of liking this cozy setup. But he's taken over my streaming room. He's playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3. We're both addicted to the game right now. Michelle is leaving. We're getting ready for tomorrow. I have family coming up to... Okay, I think I just doxed myself. Okay, I'm 1 minute into this, making videos again, and I'm already doxing myself. Let's kick the video off. So I asked you guys at home for some 5-star recommendations of manga that you guys just could not put down. And this might have to be a 2-part video. Actually, there were so many titles, but I've compiled a list in no specific order of the ones that got a lot of votes. So here we find ourselves with a bunch of 5-star rated manga, allegedly. Really quickly before I get started, I want to pose a question to you guys. Down below in the comments, let me know, what is your 5-star manga recommendation? I want to compile a list from the comment section down below in today's video and maybe use these recommendations to check out some manga for me to read, but also for you guys to check out as well. For those of you that are watching, some great recommendations will be down below in the comment section. Maybe these can go in a video in the future. Right off the bat, we're starting with a personal 10 out of 10. A lot of you guys recommended Smoking Behind a Supermarket with You, and for good reason. I actually read this one already in a previous vlog, which of course I will link down below. You guys can go ahead and check that out whenever you have the time. Let's get the tangible stuff out of the way first. This is $12.99 full retail price, but you might be able to find it cheaper on other websites. The premise is that we have an office worker who, after a long day in the corporate life as a full-time salaryman in Japan, finds a bit of comfort and happiness when he goes to his local supermarket. Now, the charm here is that there is this one clerk who always helps him, and she's smiling and generally just makes his heart skip a beat. Now, one day through a series of events, ends up sparking a cigarette, meeting one of the employees at the store who he has never seen before. There are distinct differences between this lady that he's just met and his favorite clerk. However, as the day goes by, they keep talking and getting to know each other casually. There is definitely a spark there. I guess, pun intended, a cigarette joke? Now, as time progresses, we the audience find out quite early that our main character's new friend and the girl he crushes on, our favorite clerk, are one and the same. Now, there are several reasons why I'm giving this manga sort of manga of the year so far, or my favorite read so far. So let's dive into them. First being, this series is about adults. I'm getting older and I don't want to hear any old man birthday jokes. I'm not that old. In this stage of life, I am leaning towards series where the MCs, or at least the premise, is revolving around adults. So right off of the bat, this checks that very important box for me. Number 2, the pacing is great and bang for your buck. There are a ton of chapters out in volume 1. It just kept going. The story just kept progressing right off of the bat. The pacing was done and you get a lot for your money. Story, for lack of better placement, is a slice of life romance series, but it is not a slow burn. There are definitely nuggets of emotion, realization, foreshadowing, etc. that I think we all crave when reading this type of series. That being said, it's not all just sprinting through the story. The author doesn't give it up all at once. There is definitely a buildup happening. There's tension. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. Next is the character design. They just look so good. First of all, the main character, he reminds me of that dude from Scarlet and Violet, the Pokemon games. I forget the gym leader's name. Someone will let me know down below in the comments. I like that. I like that he looks just like a sad corporate worker, but has a heart of gold and is secretly like a golden retriever. We have like the female lead, the love interest, that has like 2 personalities. It is crazy, but also incredibly sweet, mysterious, and adorable, but then also looks so grunge. I don't know. Awesome character designs across the board. I'm going to give it like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 officially, only because there's only 1 volume out. Actually, at the time of recording this video, you can go buy volume 2. I need to go buy volume 2. Oh my God, okay, I finally read it. I finally did, all right? It's been a long time coming. I finally read Seraph of the End. Oh my God, this series is cool, but it's so, for me, it got convoluted. I am so torn on this one, and I'll tell you why right now. The first half is great. The first, like, up until like chapter 50, 60, maybe even 70, it's good. Especially towards 60, 70, it does start pushing the line a little bit. But it was good, and it really kept me motivated to read. And before we go any further, I know this is a beloved series to a lot of you. All right, so I'm gonna try to deal with it with respect, but I'm also gonna have my opinion on it. So I bought volume 1 physically, read it physically, loved it. Zero patience, none, absolutely none. I read it, the rest on the Jump app in like 2 days. Zero apologies. It is what it is. The intro is very strong, where we basically have a revenge plot happening. Our main character starts off in an orphanage and is constantly in the shadow of his older brother, who always seems to take care of everything. Now, in this world, humanity and Earth are dealt with a disaster that left vampires at the top of the totem pole. They use and refer to humans as cattle, mostly, almost, and since they're strictly being taken care of as a food source, I mean, I can definitely see why they're doing that. I'll be super blunt with you guys. The first 2 volumes, they're really good. But I would say like the first few chapters of Seraph of the End, very emotional. And the art, oh my God, before I go any further, the art in this gosh darn manga series, it's peak. It's so good. So after our main character essentially witnesses his entire family being slaughtered in front of him, even though they were all orphans, they grew up together, they were essentially family. It's a very traumatic thing to see, and he was helpless at the time. So now he wants to get stronger, and our journey is set up for our protagonist. The protagonist's journey, the hero's journey, or maybe it's an anti-hero's journey. This is a very dark thing going on. Of course, he wants to take revenge on all of the vampires. So what we have here is our main character wanting to take revenge on all of the vampires, no matter the cost. And obviously he needs to learn how to work with a team, and all of that comes into play, and there's some character development. There is some character development. So let's get into the rating. All right, so the first half of Seraph of the End, I'm gonna give like a solid 7 or 8. The second half of Seraph of the End, I'm going to give, honestly, I stopped reading, I couldn't finish it. So I was like 5 to 6, maybe I would say, which I you know, that might be low. But I mean, what do you want me to say? I couldn't keep up. I couldn't keep reading it. Michelle also has some experience with Seraph of the End, and I think she said it really well, where there is just too many mysteries happening. At a certain point, we find out that his brother that we all thought that was dead, the one that basically took care of him and the rest of the orphans at the very beginning of the story, and we watch him get murdered. We find out that he wasn't murdered. He's alive, and his plotline I really like. The moments with him I really, really liked. His name's Mika, and I very much enjoyed all of his scenes. Freaking great, man. I like that it was a dystopian world. I like a good vampire story. There's an element of sci-fi here, mystery, action. They throw in some romance. On paper, it's great. And I really did think that it has a strong first half. And it really did keep me motivated reading it. I personally think the author had so many ideas that it was hard to keep track of all of them or tie them all in together in a well-paced, cohesive state. I will say though, that might be a hot take. I know a ton of you guys really like Seraph of the End. So you let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, but that is my official rating. So the first half, a strong like 7, maybe an 8, especially in like the first 20 chapters. But ultimately, I think a strong 7 and then a strong 6 after like chapter 50 to 70. And next is a manga I do not own physically yet. I cried so hard several times during that series. I don't know why. It made me so nostalgic in the most emotional ways. Probably one of my favorite reads this year, maybe of all time. I took a ton of notes for today's video, and while I was jogging my memory of Teasing Master Takugai-san, I really couldn't pinpoint like negative things about the series, but we're gonna try. We're gonna try to find some things I didn't like, or maybe things I wanted more of. But overall, I really can't hate on it. It's just wholesome in like the best possible way. The plot itself isn't necessarily the most interesting thing ever, but it's done right, and it's childhood friends to lovers. It's that trope, and it's done so well. Our main character is the clueless type. He obviously, and that might be the one thing I didn't like. It's just like, bro, how dumb can you be? Just take a hit, bro. So he's the clueless, timid type with a heart of gold, and our female lead, the love interest, definitely, like from chapter 1, we know that she likes our main character. But also, like, they're playing this game where they don't want to admit it to each other, or they're being like secretive, especially with her. So she's always teasing him, and that's where the name comes in, like teasing Master Takagai-san. So food for thought, but it's cute, and they do this dance through the entire story. Now, Teasing Master Takagai-san is a manga where we know how it ends, right? Even the author themselves puts, you know, flash forwards throughout the manga. There's a handful of them where both of our main characters are married with a kid. So we know how it's going to end, but it's about the journey getting there and watching these two individuals fall in love and come to terms with their feelings for each other. It really made me reflect on my childhood and how things unfolded for me and my friends. It was oddly an emotional manga for me. Another thing that I liked is the chapters are quick. I mean, they are very short, and this entire series you can binge in a weekend. It is not hard at all to do. The art is also phenomenal, and it's very memorable and heavily stylized, and I very much like that. But if there were some things I wanted more of, let's talk about them. And number one, the parents. Hello, where are any sort of parental figures in this freaking manga? The anime is really good. They do cut some things out, they rearrange the story because in the manga, there's quite a few chapters that are completely slice of life. They're not really pushing the story forward a lot. So the anime goes in there and they fix the pacing a little bit, but because the manga chapters are so short, time flies by. But obviously with anime, there's a very strict budget and whatnot, so that's fine. But they do a really good job of that. Teasing Master Takagai-san, because it's done, at least the base series, 9, a solid 9, a 10 maybe on a good day. It was really good. It was really freaking good. And yes, I will be doing a reread. In fact, when I get my hands on the spin-off series, when they're both adults with their kid, I might just binge read all of it at once, like the Teasing Master Takagai-san and then the spin-off series, just one coherent storyline. That's probably what I'm gonna end up doing. Next is the Apothecary Diaries and the light novel. I don't even know where to begin with this freaking series. All right, I love this. I remember getting a ton of recommendations to read Apothecary Diaries when it first started coming out, at least the manga. And I remember absolutely falling in love with it. And then going to Japan right when the anime was basically airing and seeing the hype for Apothecary Diaries in Japan and seeing like cutout posters of the main characters and merch and manga and the light novel being sold, and this wasn't even out in English yet at the time. But we are here to talk about the manga. I read all of the manga. This was a very popular choice with you guys. And let's talk about it for a second. But it reads more like a Sherlock Holmes mystery thriller with flares of like this plot that's really slowly burning and emphasis on slowly. It really does read more like a clever Sherlock Holmes set in a historical China period piece with a sarcastic, clever, and smart, mischievous, well-intentioned young adult female lead. I'm gonna give it an 8. An 8 is still incredibly strong. Definitely worth it to buy physically, to invest into it. Read the light novels for sure. Watch the anime for sure. The inner romance junkie in me wishes we got more. And honestly, that's entirely my opinion and my problem, right? I wish we got more. I will say though, it's enough teasing or it's enough foreshadowing. There's enough there to keep me motivated to continue reading. Obviously, I have all of the manga that's out. I've watched the entire anime, eagerly waiting for the next season, and now I have the light novels. It's not like I don't like the series. I just wish we got more. I need more. Okay, next is a manga I've been wanting to talk about for forever, and I'm glad a handful of you guys brought up Sora and the House of the Monsters. Now, is this a 10 out of 10? I think a lot of you were just recommending manga I would like. I don't know. I don't think this is a 10 out of 10, but it's really good. Like a solid 8. Or like, yeah, an 8 is being generous, but it's really good. And let's talk about why I think it's really good. It's definitely not a 10 out of 10 though. It's definitely not. But I think you guys were trying to put series that I would like. And this actually came up a handful of times, excuse me, which is why it made it into the video. And honestly, if you give me an excuse to talk about this series, I will jump on it. So thank you for that. Okay, so this story. First of all, the artwork. You probably can't really see it too well. I'll put it up on screen. I want the cover art for volume 1 somewhere in my house, like as a proper poster. It reminds me of like old school, like early 2000s, like fantasy single player, like not MMOs, but like RPGs. It really reminds me of that, almost giving like Maple Story vibes. I don't know, or Fable. Oh my God, do you remember Fable? Before we dive into it, the rating, let's get that out of the way. Solid 8, maybe 7. But if you're into it and this is your cup of tea, it's going to be highly enjoyable. So the rating doesn't even matter. First of all, the rating doesn't, my ratings don't even matter. I'm just a guy on the internet, dude. I'm just an old man on the internet. Like, my ratings don't matter, you know, but here we are. This is for slice of life lovers that love fantasy tropes, right? So you're gonna love like goblins and orcs and wizards and magic and dwarves and humans with swords in a mystery fantasy medieval setting. So it's gonna be for someone that likes that, but also like if you imagine like a Venn diagram, like home improvement enjoyers and like reality TV show enjoyers. So it's unique, okay? So essentially she starts wandering around and one day bumps into a dwarf with a band of monsters who are fixing up a dilapidated like monster house. She essentially joins that crew and they go traveling around as like architects and construction workers and creatively building out homes for all of these displaced monsters after the war. And it's so clever because we get all of the lore behind the monsters and in the world, which is cleverly done. But we also get to see like the author's take on like architecture and whatnot. It's so creative. I absolutely love it. It's very cozy. It's ironic because this girl lost her humanity training to just be this killing machine to take out monsters, and then finds herself and finds a bit of humanity traveling with monsters, regaining the person who she was and just changing a little bit herself. It's very interesting. It's good. Oh my God, next is March Comes In Like a Lion. If you would have told me 3 years ago that I would be holding a physical copy of this book, I would be laughing. Now, I've talked about this series a ton. In fact, it even has its own dedicated video on my channel, so I will link that down below. When people ask me for my favorite manga, I always give them, you know, like, oh my God, that's an impossible question to ask, blah, 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 blah. But in my top 5, March Comes In Like a Lion is always there. This is definitely one of my favorite manga series of all time, one of my favorite animes of all time. It is a seinen revolving around, a very emotional seinen revolving around a prodigy shogi player. It's a coming of age story with some romance in there as well, but it really, really tackles some tough conversations about family, depression, loss of loved ones. And then one that really hits home for me is our main character's best friend in this story, or rival, you can say, maybe both, has a chronic illness that he suffers from that really looked like what I went through when I was young and still continue to go through to this day because of my own chronic illness. It really hits home for me. It really, that might be one of the most relatable side characters or character in general in any manga for me. So there's that as well. The art is incredibly unique. I love the art style in March Comes In Like a Lion. This is probably the manga I want you to read. If you take one series away from this and when you want to give it a shot, like a gamble, you want to roll the dice on something that Boogie said in one video, in this one in particular, or any other ones that I talk about March Comes In Like a Lion, let it be this title. All right, now moving on, Akane Benashi. Let's talk about it. Now, I am completely caught up with the manga at the time of recording this video, and now is a great time to get caught up with Akane Benashi as it just wrapped up a very satisfying arc. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about for lack of spoilers. I am so proud of my community for a few of you gave this a 10 out of 10, and I can very much understand why. It definitely hits a certain type of reader, and it definitely has a very, very decent following, and I think this would be really well received as an anime. Would it be mainstream? I don't think an anime about Rakugo, such as Akane Benashi, would ever truly be mainstream, but this is by far one of my favorite new protagonists in Jump right now. Really good. I'm really happy Viz brought this over. The art is very good in here. Favorite character, spoilers, is the dad for me. Also, the dad is fly. Like, his fashion sense is impeccable. However, digging a bit deeper, this is a coming-of-age story about a girl reconnecting with her father, coming to terms with the entertainment industry in Japan over a dying form of entertainment, giving up on dreams, facing failures, and learning how to be happy with her own imagination, creativity, and influences. The story centers around rakugo, which is a traditional stage art from Japan, which has been around for a very long time. And in this story, rakugo is dying in a modernized Japan and needs changing. Akane's father really hit me because I was once a music major. I did the whole music thing in LA. I went to music school. I was performing. I was teaching guitar. Music performance was my life, man. And I failed. And accepting that, it really hurt. And that's why her father's my favorite character. It's super relatable, man. I got a job, dude. I got a job when it all came crashing down, and I wanted health insurance. I didn't want roommates. I wanted to move my life forward, and I was just getting by barely with music. It's super. It hit me, man. I don't know what else to say. The character's father hit me, and some of the stuff this dude says later on in the story, man, it hits me in a real deep place, a real emotional place. So that might not be the same for you. In fact, some of you might not even like the father's character, but the character type where you give up on your dreams for greener pastures and not necessarily sacrificing happiness for that decision and learning how to find happiness again is super strong, man. So, yeah. I read Vagabond. Now, one of the most recommended manga I have ever had on the channel, of course, was Vagabond. Now, I have yet to finish the series because collecting all of it, which is something I'm now learning, is going to be a task in and of itself. Vagabond was by far the highest voted series out of the rankings, including series like Blade of the Immortal, Jujutsu Kaisen, Berserk, and so on. So with that being said, let's talk first impressions, my thoughts, and everything else. The first chapter of Vagabond, amazing. It was so good, you guys. One of the most entertaining and captivating first chapters I think I've ever read, period. One thing I noted right off the bat was how easy it was to follow the action in the Vagabond manga. This is one major complaint I always have with action series. Sometimes it's drawn in a very hard to follow manner, which I was pleasantly surprised that within Vagabond that was not the case. The art is oh my god, it's a masterpiece. Look, listen. I was so impressed. The art is so good. I just had to double take sometimes. I honestly just sat there and staring with the manga open on my lap, just staring at it for just a second to appreciate the art. Right now, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place because Vagabond, I haven't read all of it, that's out, but it's also on forever hiatus, if I'm correct. That alone puts a big damper on it for me personally. I like to know with a manga that there's going to be an ending or have an ending already to binge through. With that being said, very, very enjoyable. It's very difficult to collect, and I do want to read this all physically, so I don't have a full opinion on the matter, but from what I've read so far, moral of the story, that is my rating, a solid 8 or maybe even a 9 out of 10. It took me by surprise, and I want to officially say you guys were right. I was wrong. This is definitely worth reading, and it's very addictive, and honestly, it's really entertaining. By chapter 6, we get the line explaining the title Vagabond, which is always cool to see, and honestly, I think it took me around 6 to 8 chapters to really get hooked. But dang, when Vagabond sinks its teeth into you, it really does. I was already like hunting for the rest of the volumes, you know what I mean? The chapters with our main character and Otsu were amazing, including the monk, and the fact that she ends up being the only one to be able to capture him, that was a plot twist I was not expecting. It was done so well. To put this into perspective, I took one volume out with me while finding dinner one night that Michelle was working late. And I remember the food coming out around halfway through volume 1 and not even touching my plate, honestly, until like the end of volume 2, which is, they're 3-in-1s for the omnibus, so I was only, I only took one omnibus with me, so it all worked out. But I will say it again, you were right, I was wrong. even though I have something against it being on hiatus and investing that much time and money into it, all of that flies out the window when you start reading it. It's so gosh darn good. You guys were right, and thank you for recommending me this series. But honestly, now that I have to hunt them all down, I don't even know if I should be thanking you. All right, so we've made it to the end of the video. Michelle is gonna come home soon. I've been filming for like kind of a long time already. It's my birthday tomorrow, so we're gonna go out to breakfast, lunch, and probably dinner. I'm gonna spend the entire day outside. I know that already. I gotta get a haircut. I need to clean up. I gotta shave before my mom sees me like the mess that I am right now. And I gotta put away all of this freaking manga, and I got editing this video. I gotta go. But if you made it this far into the video, thank you. Make sure we're liking the video. It really does help support the channel. And if you're new around here, subscribe so you know when I upload next. Once again, thank you so much for watching and all of the birthday wishes. I have a lot of editing to do. I will see you in the next one. We have some vlogs coming up, so get ready, all right? Even some travel vlogs, all right? See you in the next one. Bye.